All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're tackling project procurement management.
Ooh, exciting.
It is that critical phase where you bring in outside help to, make those project dreams happen.
Yeah, to really get things moving.
And we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
You're facing this complex project and the pressure's on.
Oh, the pressure is definitely real.
So we're going beyond those 6 steps, the ones you see in every project management book.
Right, the basics.
We're digging deeper this time, exploring those little things, the nuances that can make all the difference.
Well, because let's be honest, real projects, they rarely follow a simple checklist.
Never. So let's get practical. Imagine you're leading this huge construction project.
Okay, I'm listening.
A state-of-the-art skyscraper right downtown. We're talking hundreds of vendors, complex contracts, time ticking away.
Whoa, talk about pressure.
Yeah. So let's start with that first step, identify procurement needs.
Makes sense.
It sounds simple, but I've heard some real horror stories where projects went off the rails because this wasn't done right.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, our sources mention a similar skyscraper project went way over budget and schedule.
Ouch.
Yeah, because they didn't assess their needs up front. Ended up needing specialized materials halfway through.
Oh, that's got to be painful and expensive.
A tough lesson for sure. The sources suggest, well, a more robust framework for needs identification.
Okay, interesting.
You start by breaking the project down, like into the tiniest components, every material, every service, every piece of equipment.
So like a giant shopping list, but for a skyscraper.
Exactly. But it's more than just listing things. You involve key stakeholders from all different teams.
Got it.
Engineering, design, construction, even finance, to get a full view of what's needed.
So collaboration, diverse perspectives right from the start.
Right. And they emphasize thinking about potential future needs, too.
Future needs.
Yeah, like will there be upgrades, expansions later on? What about ongoing maintenance?
So thinking long term, I like it.
It's basically saying plan for today, but also anticipate tomorrow.
Smart. So you've got your needs figured out. Then it's step 2, plan procurement.
Onto the strategy.
Yeah, to our skyscraper, we have our detailed shopping list. What's next?
Now you map out the how you'll find vendors, what kind of contracts, your overall approach to managing them.
The blueprint for engaging with the outside world to make this skyscraper happen.
Exactly. And one of the first decisions, do you go traditional linear procurement or explore more agile methods?
Okay, agile procurement. I've heard that term, but I'm still a bit fuzzy on it. Break it down.
Traditional procurement, think of it like that massive contract, trying to predict everything up front.
Oh, yeah, those huge contracts.
Can be rigid, often leads to those painful change orders down the line.
Ugh, been there.
Agile procurement, it's different. You break those huge contracts into smaller chunks, work in shorter iterations.
So you can adapt as you go.
Exactly. And it fosters a more collaborative relationship with your vendors.
So like applying agile from software development to, buying things for a building.
Precisely. And it's gaining traction beyond software. One source mentions a construction company using agile procurement.
Really?
Yeah, on a large infrastructure project. They found it improved communication, reduced delays, and fostered a much more collaborative environment.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So it's not just a buzzword. Agile procurement actually delivers.
It can, but like anything, it's not one size fits all. You got to assess if it's the right fit for your project, your team, your company culture.
Got it. Okay, so we've got needs, a plan, and we've decided on our approach, agile or traditional.
Right.
What's next on this journey?
Now it's source vendors time. Find those potential suppliers who can actually meet your specific needs.
I see.
This is where market research comes in, networking, sending out those requests for proposals.
Casting a wide net to find the perfect partners for our skyscraper.
Right, but it's not just about checking boxes on a requirements list. It's about finding vendors who, align with your project values.
I like that.
Vendors with a proven track record who you can build a strong relationship with.
Because it's people working with people, right?
Absolutely. And that leads us to step 4, select vendors.
All right, so we've cast our net, proposals are in, time for some tough decisions. How do we choose from all these possibilities?
This is where those vendor evaluation criteria come in. Remember those must-haves we talked about?
Yeah.
Experience, financial stability, past performance, ethical practices, the non-negotiables.
So like a scorecard to assess each vendor.
Exactly. But it's not just hard data. It's also getting a feel for their culture, communication style, how they approach projects.
Finding vendors you can trust who will fit well with the team.
Precisely. And once you've got your top contenders, it's on to negotiations.
Okay, contracts, let's talk. This is where things can get a bit tricky, especially with a massive project like this skyscraper.
Contracts are crucial, definitely need careful attention.
I've heard horror stories about disputes that brought projects to a standstill.
Oh yeah, it happens. That's why understanding the different contract types and what they mean is so important.
Right.
Like a fixed price contract, it seems straightforward, but it can be risky if the project scope isn't crystal clear.
So if unexpected changes pop up, which they always do,
Exactly. Then you could end up arguing about who pays for those extra costs.
makes sense.
A cost reimbursable contract, well, it offers more flexibility, but you got to monitor expenses closely to avoid budget overruns.
Sounds like a balancing act.
It is. This is where a good lawyer can be invaluable, someone specializing in construction contracts.
Good point.
They help you navigate those complexities, protect your interests, minimize the risk of future disputes.
Okay, so we've got our vendors, contracts signed, everyone's ready to work. But this procurement journey doesn't end there, right?
Nope, not at all. Now comes step 5, contract administration.
I'll be honest, that doesn't sound like the most exciting part of project management.
I get it. Maybe not as glamorous as designing a fancy facade, but it's essential for smooth execution.
So what does it actually involve?
It's about actively managing those vendor relationships, monitoring performance, addressing issues, keeping communication flowing.
Like being the conductor of an orchestra, making sure everyone's playing in sync.
Perfect analogy. And it's not just about things running smoothly, it's also about fostering those collaborative relationships.
Making sure everyone feels valued, heard, part of the team.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final step, contract closure.
So the skyscraper's built, the ribbon's cut, champagne's flowing, everyone packs up and goes home.
Not quite. Contract closure, there are a few key steps to make sure everything is wrapped up nicely, everyone's satisfied.
All right, what are those key elements?
First, make sure all deliverables are met according to those contract specifications.
Everything's up to standard, all those little details.
Right. Then, verify all payments are settled as agreed.
No surprise bills lurking.
Exactly. And finally, you evaluate vendor performance.
Gathering feedback, assessing strengths, weaknesses, documenting lessons learned for next time.
Precisely. This evaluation, it's not just about grading vendors, it's also about identifying areas for improvement in your own procurement processes.
Always learning, always getting better.
Exactly. So there you have it. The 6 steps of project procurement management, but with a real-world spin.
We went beyond the textbook and explored how these steps play out in, well, a complex project like our skyscraper.
We talked about needs assessment, agile procurement, those tricky contract types, the need for communication, collaboration, and always improving.
And we emphasized that procurement, it's not just transactions. It's about relationships, trust, creating a win-win for everyone.
But let's face it, projects rarely go perfectly.
True.
So in part 2, we'll dive into those common challenges that can derail even the best-laid plans.
The tricky relationships, the budget-busting scope creeps, those tough contract negotiations.
And we'll equip you with strategies and tools to overcome those hurdles, become a true procurement champion.
Stay tuned. Back again for more project procurement management. In part 1, we covered those 6 crucial steps, even imagined ourselves tackling a skyscraper project.
And we talked about how vital that initial needs assessment is. Remember that skyscraper project that went way over budget?
Oh yeah, because they didn't figure out their material needs up front. Ouch.
Definitely a lesson learned there. But even with a solid plan, real-world projects, they rarely go smoothly. What are some of those roadblocks we might hit?
Good question.
Well, finding reliable suppliers, that's a big one. It's not just about the lowest bid, you know?
Right.
It's about finding partners who get your vision, can deliver, and are committed to quality, ethical practices, all that.
It's like searching for a needle in a haystack sometimes.
Absolutely. One of our sources, a project manager, they told this story about choosing a vendor based on price alone.
Oh no.
Seemed like a good deal at the time, but they ended up cutting corners, using bad materials, delayed the whole project.
Ouch. Classic case of penny wise, pound foolish. How do you avoid that trap?
Thorough due diligence. Don't just rely on brochures and sales pitches. Dig deeper. Check references, look into their financials, see how they performed on similar projects in the past.
Like a background check for a business partner.
Exactly. And site visits are powerful. Actually go to their facilities, meet their team, see how they operate firsthand.
It's one thing to read about quality control, another to see it in action.
For sure. And ask tough questions. Safety protocols, how they handle disputes, their track record with deadlines.
Be proactive. Don't just cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Right. But finding good suppliers is just one part. Then comes managing those relationships once they're on board.
Especially with something as complex as a skyscraper. So many vendors working at the same time.
It's like conducting an orchestra, making sure everyone's playing in harmony.
That's a good way to put it.
Clear communication, set expectations up front, address any problems quickly and professionally, that's key.
Because even with the best vendors, misunderstandings happen.
Oh, absolutely. It's human nature. But it's how you handle those situations that matters.
One source, a consultant, they talked about a project almost failing because of a communication breakdown.
Really?
Yeah, they were just relying on email, led to confusion and delays.
Email can be tough for complex projects. The sources recommend a more structured communication plan.
Okay, what does that look like?
Regular meetings, progress reports, clear steps for handling disputes if they come up.
Open communication, transparency, collaboration.
Exactly. And don't forget face-to-face. Sometimes a quick phone call or video chat clears things up faster than a bunch of emails.
Those personal connections can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Speaking of communication, one of the biggest challenges is managing scope creep.
Oh, scope creep, every project manager's nightmare.
Right. Start small, a change here, an extra feature there, and boom, the project explodes.
Budget's gone, timeline's out the window.
It's a slippery slope. Our sources say it often goes back to that initial needs identification phase. If you don't clearly define and document those needs up front, that's where scope creep sneaks in.
Because if everyone's not on the same page about what's included, it's easy to add things later without thinking about the consequences.
Exactly. They recommend a few things to fight scope creep. First, that rock-solid needs assessment we talked about.
Right.
But also a strong change management process. So if a change is requested, it's not just automatically approved.
Got it.
It's reviewed formally. The team looks at the impact on budget, timeline, the whole project.
Checks and balances to prevent those small changes from becoming big problems.
Right. And communication is crucial here, too.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone understands why that process is important, why sticking to the scope matters.
So it's not about saying no to everything. It's about having a system for making good decisions.
Precisely. Now, another challenge, especially for those new to procurement, those contract negotiations.
Ugh, contracts, my least favorite part. All that legal jargon.
I hear you. But our sources emphasize contracts aren't just documents, they're the foundation of your vendor relationships.
Okay, interesting.
So it's not about outsmarting anyone. It's about finding terms that are fair and good for both sides. One source, a negotiation expert, suggests a collaborative approach.
Working together to find solutions instead of fighting.
Exactly. And it starts with, you guessed it, communication. Clear expectations, listening to the vendor, being willing to compromise.
Because in the end, you both want the same thing, a successful project.
Exactly. And it's okay to ask for clarification if something's unclear, or even get legal advice if you need it.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right. The goal is a contract that's clear, protects everyone involved. So we've talked about people challenges, but what about technology?
Good point. Technology's changing everything these days.
It's playing a huge role in procurement, streamlining things, making things more efficient, giving us valuable data.
Remember how we talked about data being a game changer? Oh yeah, I used to hate those endless spreadsheets, all the manual tracking.
Well, procurement software is making a big difference.
Yeah, tell me more.
It automates so much of the manual work. Generating purchase orders, tracking invoices, managing contracts.
So procurement professionals can focus on the bigger picture.
Exactly, building relationships, negotiating, managing risks.
Like a virtual assistant for all that tedious stuff.
Right, and it goes beyond just automating. Procurement software gives you insights into spending, vendor performance, market trends.
Insights. Like what?
Imagine a dashboard showing you, in real time, which vendors are delivering on time, within budget, who's lagging, where you can get better deals.
Wow, that would be amazing.
It's powerful. You can make decisions based on data, find areas to improve, optimize your whole strategy.
So we've got software for streamlining, for insights. What other tech tools are changing the game?
Contract lifecycle management software, or CLM is another one. We talk about how important contracts are.
Yeah, and how complex they can be.
CLM helps you manage all of that. It's a central platform for everything, from creation to renewal.
Sounds so.
It tracks dates, automates approvals and signatures, even analyzes the terms to spot risks and opportunities.
Like a personal legal assistant for contracts.
Exactly. Especially valuable in a project like our skyscraper, with hundreds of contracts.
It seems like technology is becoming essential for procurement.
It is. But remember, technology is just a tool. It's not a magic solution.
So it's not about replacing humans, it's about helping them.
Exactly. The best strategies combine technology with the skills and experience of procurement professionals.
The perfect team.
Exactly. We've covered a lot, from tricky relationships to tech tools, but there's one more crucial aspect.
What's that?
Ethics. Because even with the best processes and technology, if we're not ethical, it all falls apart.
True. So true. It's easy to get caught up in the details of getting a good deal, but ethics should be at the forefront.
Absolutely. It's not just checking a box. It's about making ethical choices throughout the entire process.
And we're back, wrapping up our deep dive into project procurement management. We've covered the process, the pitfalls, even how tech's changing the game.
And now we're stepping into a topic that, well, everyone talks about, but it doesn't always get the attention it deserves.
Ethical procurement, right.
Exactly.
It's easy to get caught up in the, getting the best deal, meeting deadlines, staying on budget.
Yeah.
But ethics, that should be our compass the whole way.
It really should. It's not just a checklist item.
Yeah.
It's got to be woven into everything we do in procurement.
So let's break it down. What does ethical procurement actually look like in practice? What are we aiming for?
Well, one of the, I guess you could say, the foundational principles is transparency. Being open about your processes, how you evaluate, how you make decisions.
So no secrets, everything's out in the open.
Exactly. It's about creating a level playing field for everyone.
So any vendor, big or small, has a fair shot.
Right. And that ties into fairness. Treating all vendors with respect, clear communication, evaluating bids objectively.
No favoritism, no special treatment for your buddies.
Absolutely. But ethical procurement goes beyond just how you treat vendors. It's also about the stuff you're buying, the products, the services.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
Think about sustainability. Are your suppliers environmentally responsible? Are you thinking about the carbon footprint of what you're buying?
So it's not just about price and delivery, it's about the environmental impact too.
Right. And what about the social impact? Are your suppliers treating their workers fairly? Are they committed to diversity?
It's using your buying power to make a real difference in the world.
Exactly. Aligning your actions with your values, contributing to a better society.
It's like they say, with great power comes great responsibility. And in procurement, we have a lot of power to influence things.
Every purchase we make has a ripple effect.
It's not just about getting the job done, it's about doing it the right way.
Couldn't agree more. And this ethical approach, it's not just the right thing to do, it's actually good for business too.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about your reputation. Customers are paying more attention to a company's ethics these days.
So if you're buying stuff from, unethical places, it can hurt your image.
Exactly. But if you're known for ethical sourcing, it can boost your brand, attract customers who share those values.
It's like a selling point almost.
It can be. And ethical procurement can reduce risks too. Working with suppliers who have questionable practices, that opens you up to problems.
Legal problems, bad press, even disruptions in your supply chain.
All of that. So it's about protecting your business in the long run. And ethical procurement can even help you attract and keep good employees.
Because people want to work for companies that are doing the right thing.
Exactly. It's about building a company culture that people are proud of.
Okay, so we've established it's the right thing to do, and it's good for business. But how do we actually make it happen?
It starts at the top. Leaders have to set the example, make it clear that ethical procurement is a top priority.
Lead by example, right?
Exactly. And then it's about creating a culture of ethics throughout the whole organization. Training, codes of conduct, ways to report concerns.
So people can speak up if they see something wrong.
Right. And partner with suppliers who share your values. Vet them carefully, ask tough questions about labor and environmental practices.
So you're not just picking the cheapest option, you're choosing partners who are doing things the right way.
Exactly. And then hold them accountable. Monitor their performance, do audits, address any issues that come up.
It's a continuous process, always striving to improve.
It is. It's about shifting our mindset. Procurement isn't just about transactions, it's a chance to make a real difference.
It's about going beyond the bottom line and realizing our choices have a bigger impact.
That's what it's all about. Using procurement to drive positive change.
Well, folks, we've reached the end of our deep dive into project procurement management. We started with the basics, explored the challenges, and even saw how technology is transforming the field.
We talked about those tricky situations and, most importantly, how to navigate them ethically.
And as we wrap up, remember this, procurement is more than just a process. It's a powerful tool that can shape our world.
So use that power wisely, make choices with integrity, and always strive to make a positive impact.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.